Over the weekend, President Trump sat down for an exclusive interview with CBS's Face the Nation to mark his 100th day in office. When discussing North Korea, Trump said Pyongyang can't be allowed to possess more capable ballistic missiles, with the regime continuing its push to acquire a nuclear-tipped ICBM that can hit the U.S. mainland.
I would not be happy. If he does a nuclear test, I will not be happy. And I can tell you also, I don't believe that the president of China, who is a very respected man, will be happy either.
Not happy mean military action?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
In this interview over the weekend, U.S. President Donald Trump offered an uncharacteristic compliment to DPRK leader Kim Jong-un.
And at a very young age, he was able to assume power. A lot of people, I'm sure, tried to take that power away, whether it was his uncle or anybody else. And he was able to do it. So obviously, he's a pretty smart cookie.
Now 101 days on the job, Trump is making resolving the nuclear crisis on the Korean Peninsula a major foreign policy test. Trump and his national security advisor refusing to take military options off the table.
So you need the viable option, the military option, to help make what you're doing diplomatically, economically, with sanctions, viable, to be able to resolve this problem short of what would be, as the president said, a major war.
Beijing wants to coax the parties back to negotiations through economic pressure. Discussions are underway at the United Nations for additional sanctions against Pyongyang. And Foreign Minister Wang Yi continues to encourage the U.S. to end its military exercises in the region. Meantime, Trump said he is now certain China is not manipulating its currency, a reversal of his campaign rhetoric, and said he is willing to make trade concessions to Beijing if China can help broker a resolution to Korean Peninsula tensions.
Trade is very important, but massive warfare with millions, potentially millions of people being killed, that, as we would say, trumps trade.
Now, Japan's military has reportedly issued its first order to protect U.S. military vessels since the 2015 national security legislation was enacted. Local media are reporting that the Japanese Self-Defense Forces largest carrier will escort a U.S. Navy supply vessel in the Pacific.
Japanese media are citing unnamed government sources as saying that Defense Minister Tomomi Inada has ordered the country's largest warship, which is a helicopter carrier by the name of Izumo, to escort a U.S. supply ship which is possibly on its way to support the USS Carl Vinson. The Carl Vinson Strike Group is in the East Sea for joint drills with Seoul amid the North Korean threat. The sources said the Izumo was to depart its home in Yokosuka port in Kanagawa, southwest of Tokyo, on Monday morning. If the reports are true, then it will be the first time a Japanese vessel would be allowed to use weapons while guarding another country's fleet after World War II. These rules were relaxed after the security legislation came into force last March. Critics argue that the legislation erodes Japan's post-war pacifist constitution.
Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman is being chastised again for heating up tensions between the Jewish state and the hermit country North Korea. In an interview with the Walla news agency, Lieberman referred to Kim Jong-un as the madman from North Korea, continuing to say that North Korea was part of an axis of evil in league with Iran, Hezbollah, and Syria to destabilize the world. Israel's ministers are questioning Lieberman's comments, saying, quote, "We have nothing to do with North Korea, so why jump up? Don't we have enough enemies?" Former Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon tweeted calling Lieberman the Minister of Talk, saying he was chattering irresponsibly about North Korea and that there is no PM to rein in the babbling and posturing minister. North Korea fired back in a statement reading in part, quote, "Our consistent message is to mercilessly punish those who offend the dignity of our leadership. We warn Israel to think twice about the implications of its defamation campaign against us," end quote. Korea then went on to decry alleged Israeli human rights abuses against the Palestinians, for which Korea called Israel hypocritical. Hamas returned the favorable support to North Korea, saying Hamas, quote, "appreciates North Korea's statement in which it supported the Palestinian struggle and rejected the continuation of occupation. Hamas rejects Israeli abuse of North Korea and confirms that Israel is the leader of evil and terrorism in the world," end quote.
On Saturday, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was in Cairo for the third time in 2 months. It was a brief one-day visit, part of his coordination efforts with regional leaders before his scheduled trip to the United States on Monday.
Mahmoud Abbas is going to Washington, D.C. this week. It's his first official visit to Donald Trump, and one Palestinians hope would redraw relations with the White House and revive hopes to achieve peace with Israel. Trump and el-Sisi seem to be on good terms. That's why Abbas came to Cairo, to be well prepared for this crucial meeting with the American president. The two presidents have agreed to hold on the conditions Arab states have set for peace, an independent Palestinian state established on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. In return, all Arab countries are willing to normalize ties with Israel. El-Sisi has been recently bringing the Palestinian crisis up on the regional agenda. Cairo has been meeting with Israeli and Palestinian officials in efforts to convince the two to sit again on the negotiating table. Coordination between el-Sisi and Abbas is essential. Egypt has for long played a significant role in the Palestinian crisis. After Cairo, Abbas will continue preparations for the U.S. trip by meeting Jordanian King Abdullah. The Palestinian president is expected to leave for Washington, D.C. on Monday.
This weekend, Arab media and Syrian opposition forces are reporting that the Israeli Air Force carried out several airstrikes near the Syrian border town of Quneitra. The strikes are believed to have targeted Syrian army forces in the area. However, the Syrian army has denied that any attack took place, and the Israeli army has similarly declined to comment.
These are U.S. troops patrolling border areas in Hasaka province. Their aim is to de-escalate mounting tensions. Over the last few days, the Turkish army has launched attacks targeting the YPG, or the People's Protection Unit. It's the main Kurdish group operating in northeastern Syria. The YPG is a crucial U.S. ally in the fight against ISIL. But the presence of U.S. troops with YPG fighters has angered Turkey.
It saddened us deeply to see American flags waving in a convoy in which a terrorist organization, that is YPG, also had their so-called flags. We will discuss this with Mr. Trump during our visit on May 16.
We will be forced to continue our offensives like after what happened in Sinjar Karakok. This is what I meant when I said last night, we might suddenly come down there one night. We won't provide a date and time for when we'll come. But they will know that the Turkish military can come to such places at any time. They should live in fear rather than us live in worry.
Turkey has also deployed troops in Şanlıurfa, not far from where more U.S. troops have been seen. It's raised concerns the two countries might be on a collision course.
NATO Secretary General says the alliance is planning to boost its troop presence in Afghanistan. Jan Stoltenberg cited the challenging security situation in the country for this additional deployment. He added that the alliance also plans to increase its role in the fight against terrorism by training local forces. Troops are expected to join 13,000 in the Resolute Support Mission, which is a train, assist, and advise mission. 28-member alliance is expected to make a final decision on this increase in June. It also decide the deployment length that's currently renewed annually.
The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, has released a fairly watered-down statement following the end of their big summit in Manila. ASEAN members dropped any mention of China's militarization of disputed islands in the South China Sea, despite several members pushing for it to be included. Beijing reportedly lobbied the Philippines, the host nation, to ensure it wasn't in the statement. The statement instead mentioned commitment to international law and reflected some ASEAN leaders' concerns over recent developments in the area.
An Austrian man suspected of war crimes in the conflict between Ukrainian forces and pro-Russia separatists has been arrested in Poland. The 25-year-old is accused of having killed soldiers involved in fighting at Donetsk airport who had already surrendered. He's also accused of killing civilians. He was detained at a border crossing to Ukraine on a European arrest warrant.
The founder and chairman of an Iranian satellite television network has been found shot dead in Istanbul. Saeed Karimian was killed alongside a Kuwaiti business partner in the city's Maslak neighborhood. Gunmen reportedly cut off their car and opened fire on them. Last year, Karimian was sentenced in absentia to 6 years in jail by an Iranian court for spreading propaganda against the country.
Following some breaking news right now, 2 suspicious packages reportedly found in Times Square. CBS 2 sources say the packages were found within 50 feet of each other along 45th Street. Right now, the bomb squad is on scene. 6th, 7th, and 8th Avenues are shut down in the area of 44th Street. We'll stay on top of this, of course, and bring you any developments as they come into the newsroom.
It's harvest time at the Damari Farm in Ruskin, Florida, one of the largest tomato producers in America.
Buenos dias, señora. ¿Cómo está?
Buenos dias. For 3 generations, Tony Damari and his family have grown, picked, and packed tomatoes. But now, Tony says he is one of only 20 tomato producers left out of 300 that used to operate in the state.
We're kind of in a survival mode, trying to keep our head above the water. We have cut back over the decades, with the change of production and the increase of production coming from Mexico.
Tony says he's losing his share of the market due to the volume of lower-priced greenhouse tomatoes coming from Mexico. They can be grown all year round and shipped to the U.S. as part of a long-standing trade deal.
The North American Free Trade Agreement has been in place since 1994. It was designed to eliminate trade barriers between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. For consumers, it means lower prices and more options.
For conventional domestic farmers like Tony, imported products sold below market value and dumped on the U.S. leave them left out. Mexico is the leading supplier of agricultural imports, especially fruits and vegetables, to the U.S. Last year, they yielded $23 billion, while U.S. agricultural imports to Mexico totaled $18 billion. On the flip side, at Don Victoria's Market in West Palm Beach, Florida, about 300 kilometers northeast of Ruskin, Damari and imported tomatoes sit side by side on the shelves. Store employees say 60% of their products are sourced locally, but the other 40% comes from South and Central America.
You're going to have 2 types. You're going to have people that are going to support the local farmer or the local state of the United States, and you're going to have people that will always going to support where they're from, most likely if they're from South America or Central. So no, I like my product from my homeland instead. So you have different buyers. So when you have different buyers, they have different opinions about produce.
From the field to the shelves, many people here say one thing is clear.
It is, at the end of the day, all about economics and all about the bottom line.
While a trade deal between 2 countries that's worth billions of dollars may be financially beneficial to consumers, just down the road, it can stop some producers in their tracks.
The Trump administration has considered tariffs on Mexico, and the president is openly critical of the North American Free Trade Agreement.
NAFTA has been a terrible deal, a total disaster.
So how could changes to Mexican imports affect our food prices? Let's consider the avocado.
Avocados from Mexico.
The U.S. is the largest avocado importer in the world, and about 90% of those imports come from Mexico. And thanks to NAFTA, those avocados come into the country duty-free. Avocado imports from non-duty-free countries get hit with an 11.2 cent per kilogram tariff. From January to April 2017, the U.S. imported nearly 292 million kilograms of avocados from Mexico. At 11.2 cents per kilogram, we'd be talking about nearly $32.7 million in taxes. Money from tariffs goes to the U.S. government, but those increased costs are usually passed on to the consumers. On the flip side, new international tariffs typically mean U.S.-made products become more affordable. But in the case of our avocado, the domestic market can't keep up with the U.S. demand. California avocados only account for 8.3% of the green fruits in the U.S. market.
While it's twisters in Texas, there's also deadly flooding across several states. Multiple fatalities already reported, and the search ongoing tonight for 2 children swept away in Arkansas. That's where ABC's Philip Menez reporting tonight.
Search and rescue crews arm in arm, foot by foot, looking for any sign of 2 children swept away by powerful floodwaters. The 18-month-old girl and 4-year-old boy were trapped inside a truck that was swept away. The mother managed to escape.
This is a very dangerous operation. The further downstream they go, the faster that water is rushing and the harder it is for them to hold their footing.
Right now, parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri all under a state of emergency. Several deaths blamed on this storm, including a firefighter hit by a car while checking utility lines. Authorities there ordering evacuations. For some, it was too late. This pregnant mother and her husband trapped, firefighters rescuing them by boat. In Missouri, this man barely escaping from his truck before it was submerged in rushing waters. In Oklahoma, hail and heavy wind pounding the state. Rushing water trapping people inside this restaurant near Tulsa. And an 8-year-old boy sucked into a storm drain in Illinois.
Your 8-year-old child sucked into a drain pipe.
Somehow coming out 50 feet on the other end, alive and okay.
We got him in this pipe.
The street, all this was flooded when we came home.
The Williams family going inside their waterlogged home for the first time.
I saw the whole house like that.
And Philip joins us live from one of the rivers that is still flooding tonight. That rain has slowed, Philip, but the threat is far from over.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. Rivers and creeks like the one behind me, they're going to continue to rise as all of this water makes its way downstream. As for the search for those 2 missing children, rescue crews are working against the clock. They'll have to suspend their search once it's dark. Tom?
And still battle those elements. All right, Philip, thanks so much. And as that severe weather threat moves into the northeast, wind-whipped snow is battering the Plain States tonight. This is the scene in Goodland, Kansas. Whiteout conditions reported. ABC meteorologist Rob Marciano tracking all of this dangerous weather. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Tom, remarkable. Tomorrow's May 1st. We're talking about a blizzard in western Kansas. Even the National Guard going out to help rescue people stranded on the highway. Look at all the warnings. We have that blizzard warning, but the glaring is the flood warnings, and that's going to last for the next several days. And then that tornado watch that we're watching with the storms that are moving through the south tonight. That will continue as this monster low drifts off towards the north. By tomorrow morning, still across the southeast. Towns like Birmingham, Atlanta may see some storms. And then by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, another pulse into Ohio and Pittsburgh and western New York. And that's where we see an enhanced risk of severe weather, thunderstorms that could have damaging winds, large hail, and isolated tornadoes. As mentioned, Tom, the flood risk will continue right through this week.
A new bill could completely change how endangered species are protected in the U.S. The Endangered Species Management Self-Determination Act would allow governors to determine how much to protect a species found only within their state's border, if at all. According to the Center for Biological Diversity, that change could affect over 1,000 animals. And whatever protection the governors choose is ironclad. The proposed act doesn't allow for judicial review at all. The bill also rewrites how endangered species are added to the list of protected animals. Right now, services within the Department of the Interior determine if any animal is in danger of going extinct and add those animals to the list. But under the bill, any animal put on the endangered species list would first have to be approved by Congress. And those animals won't necessarily be protected for long. Under this proposal, animals would be removed from the list after 5 years unless Congress agrees to keep protecting them. But in order to relist them, the Secretary of the Interior first has to consult with the governors of all the states where the animal is present before resubmitting the animal for consideration. So far, the bill has only been referred to the Committee on Environment and Public Works for review, so it will be a while before the whole Senate gets to vote.